All right, hello there. Welcome to Ask a Lawyer. Once again, here CP24, John Scholes, momentarily on your screen. My good pal, employment lawyer Lior Samfiru. Always reachable, don't you know? We tell you to make that phone call, make that email, reach out. Don't sit and wonder. Always make contact. 1-855-821-5900. Reach Lior. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Okay, lots to get through on the show today. We have questions, we have calls, we have a main topic, which is when your boss ends remote work and calls you back to work. Uh-oh, say it ain't so. Three things to cover off in that regard. That's coming up here in just a bit. Lots to get through, Lior, as we know, and we do every week here over the course of the 30 minutes. But again, always reach out to Lior if you have any other questions. Got a great team working for him, and we always kick off every show with a case of the day or a week that was. Pal, what have you got? There he is. What do you got going on tonight, pal? How are you?
Hey, John, great to be here, of course, to talk about employment law. And listen, this may be the most important TV show you're going to watch this week. Maybe not as fun as some of the shows on Netflix, but Netflix is probably more important because you get to learn about your workplace rights. If you have a job, if you're working, you need to know and understand your workplace rights. It's a must, not an option, because if you don't know your workplace rights, you may be taken advantage of. You may walk away from rights and entitlements without even realizing. You have rights on the job if your boss is mistreating you. You have rights on the job if your job has changed. You also have rights of the job, of course, if you lost your job and you're not paid what you're owed, and so many other situations. And we try to cover all that and much more on the show every week. That's why I say it's probably the most important thing you're going to watch on TV this week. But of course, on TV, I talk, I explain, I give some information and examples. Beyond that, though, if you need my actual help to resolve your workplace issue, easy to connect by phone or email, and we'll give you that contact information throughout the show, so please take advantage of that. But right now, let's talk about a situation that came across my desk over the past week, where I think there's an important lesson for everyone to learn. I spoke with a very nice lady that had worked for the same dentist for over 20 years, about 23 years or so. Well, very recently, her dentist said that he was retiring and he was selling the practice to another doctor. Very common with dentists, doctors, chiropractors, etc. No problem. She continued working. Nothing had changed for her. She had a good relationship with the buyer. Everything is fine. Well, fast forward 6 months later, the new doctor says to her, unfortunately, we're not as busy as we thought we would be. And because of that, we're going to have to make some cuts and we're going to have to let you go. We hate doing that, but we have no choice. You've been with us for 6 months. We like you. We'll pay you for 2 weeks and wish you all the best. She was very confused and upset by that. She had over 20 years with the previous owner. So thankfully, she called me and she wanted to understand what her rights were. So here's what this all means. When the doctor, the new doctor, bought the practice, when the new business bought the old business, if you will, that seniority that she had, the 20 plus years, carried on with her. So she's now not a 6-month employee, she's a 20-year plus employee, meaning when she's getting severance right now, she's owed severance based on all those 20 plus years, not just the 6 months. This is very common when the business is sold. If you continue working with the buyer, they generally inherit your service. That means if down the road they let you go, they have to account for all your years of seniority in deciding how much severance you're owed. For her, that means probably 18 to 20 months of severance that they owe her, not 2 weeks. It's going to be a bit of a rude awakening for the new doctor. I'll get involved and I'll help her get it. But remember, you want to be very, very mindful of that. And of course, if the company that you're going to be working for, the buyer, wants you to sign a new employment agreement, be very careful. You could potentially sign away your prior service. Don't do that. If you're not sure what this all means, what to do, certainly if you've lost your job, you have to call me right away.
Quick question, Lior. What happens to things if the new buyer, the new doctor, does not need her service? He brings in his own team and she doesn't have a job at the end of it.
So if as a result of a sale of a business, you lose your job, you're not hired on and you're just out of work, yes, of course you get severance, and it's the seller, it's the old company that has to pay you that severance. If you lose your job, you can't lose it without severance. You have to get paid, and of course, if you get severance, if you don't get severance, if you think it's good or you think it's bad, either way you call me, because chances are, 90% chance in fact, that you're owed much more than what you've been given.
EmploymentLawyer.ca, the website you go to find a radio station across this wonderful province that carries Lior and I for many years. Phone calls from it are always good and informative. That's why we play them back here and talk about them, right? First phone call of the show, Lior, is coming up right now. Listen up.
I work for a trucking company. They sign contracts with different companies in order to haul their freight. I've been there for 24 years. The contract that I did sign at the very bottom said that due to the work, layoffs are possible. So if they do lay me off because they didn't get another contract with the company, do they still owe me the severance? It would be a permanent, because if they do not get the next contract with the company, it would definitely be permanent.
So if he's going to lose his job as a result of this situation, the company's not doing well, they lost a contract, of course he's owed severance, and the contract is not going to change that. I can tell you, by the way, I've acted for many people working for trucking companies. The chances of the company just offering him what he's owed is very, very small. They don't usually understand their obligations. Yes, he's owed significant amounts. Even if the company lost business, even if the company is struggling, and even if there's a contract at play. So the question now that we need to answer, of course, well, we know he's getting severance, but how much severance? We're going to use our severance calculator tool for this. We're going to go to EmploymentLawyer.ca. It's free and anonymous. Let's plug in the information and see what we get. So he's a truck driver. He's been there for 24 years. It's a long time. He's 61 years of age. The severance that he's owed, you see at the bottom, 20 to 24 months pay. 20 to 24 months. That's up to 2 years of pay. By the way, you at home as well, if you lost your job, if you're worried about losing your job, if you're curious and just want to know, you can use that severance calculator as well. Again, completely free, completely anonymous. Check it out at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
All right, thank you, Lior. We're cooking. We're going to take a short break. On the other side, our main topic, 3 key questions when your boss ends remote work. That is on the way with Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Okay, and welcome back to Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Thank you so much for sticking around through the break. Lior back in your screen momentarily with more questions and information when it comes to your employment rights. First, the phone number and email to reach out to Lior right there, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca and scan that QR code with your phone on the right side of your screen. We always get to a main topic. This is a good one. We've had requests for this one actually since post-COVID, Lior, and that is 3 key questions to ask when your boss says, no more remote work, you're out of here. So can my employer make me come back to the office? What say you?
So many people, of course, shifted to working remotely during the pandemic. A lot of people, and a lot of those individuals are still working remotely. They were never going back to the office. They're never called back in. And you know what? They've built their life around that. So now it's become a term of employment. If you've been doing this for years now, it's a term of your employment, which means your employer cannot just change it, okay? Your employer cannot make you come back to work. Of course, if you're hired to work remotely, the same thing applies. Your employer doesn't have a right to insist that from now on you're coming in once, twice, 3 times a days in a week. That's a significant change to your terms of employment. It's a big deal. And it's not something an employer is allowed to do. And if you refuse to do that, it's not a resignation. You can't be disciplined for it. It's a term of your employment. They work remotely. And that is something that you can't change on your own, and neither can your employer.
So, Lior, if I do end up going back to the office, or I guess even if I don't in that case, can they change? Can they manipulate my job at all?
So what if your employer says, well, we need you to come back in and we're going to change your job? Or you know what, if you want to stay remote, your job is going to be different. Well, no. Remember the general rule. If your employer makes significant changes to terms of employment, that could be a constructive dismissal, okay? Your employer can't just change your pay, your hours, your responsibilities, your benefits, etc. If they do, you may have the right to say, no, employer, that's a constructive dismissal. I'm going to treat that as a termination, okay? And of course, refuse to do that and get severance. You should tell your employer in writing you're not okay with it, okay? So that you avoid a he said, she said. You could be owed severance up to 2 years pay in a constructive dismissal situation, of course. So no, whether you're working remotely or in office, the rule is the same. Your employer cannot just make changes to terms of employment.
So Lior, if my employer is demanding I come back and I say, you know what, no, I've asked, ask a lawyer, I've watched the show, I listen to Lior, I know what's going on, I'm not coming back because I don't have to, they fire you. Can they? Then what happens?
So we have to go back to the usual rule that we've heard on the show many times, and that is that your employer can generally let you go at any time and pretty much for any reason, as long as they pay you proper severance. So your employer can't force you to come back to work, but if you refuse, they could let you go with severance, okay? It's a termination. It's not a resignation. It's not a job abandonment. Your employer can still let you go, just like they could let you go because they don't like the color of your shoes. I know that's dumb, but they could do that with proper severance. The same thing. So could you lose your job if you decide not to come into the office when your employer is telling you? Yes, you can, but full severance has to be paid as much as 2 years pay, not a resignation, no termination for cause in that situation.
All right, pal, as always, reach out to Lior with any questions with that topic or anything else. Want to get to another phone call from our radio show. Lior, listen up.
I had an episode where I collapsed because of a now diagnosed level of diabetes 1. And I spent 6 weeks in hospital. One of the young fellows that I hired, I was asked by my employer to start training him up. He took over my position. I offered my services to my employer. My employer said, well, I'm not allowed to come back to work.
Wow.
Wow, that's just ridiculous. You cannot be let go. You cannot be told to resign. You cannot be told you don't have a job because you have a serious medical condition. That cannot happen. If your employer doesn't bring you back because of a medical condition, that could be a human rights violation. That's an employment rights violation, employment standards violation. It could also be a constructive dismissal. It's not legal. Your employer cannot do that. Now, can your employer ask you to train your replacement? Yes, your employer can let you go with severance, but not if the reason for that is your medical condition. If this was simply a situation where there was no medical condition at issue, the company just wanted him to be gone, to train a replacement and leave, not cool, not nice, but legally they could do that with severance. Where this becomes illegal is the fact that he was sick, he collapsed, he was off, now he's not being allowed to come back to work and the replacement is there. No, not so fast, not good at all. If you're sick, you can be off as long as you need to with that doctor's note. When you're ready to come back to work, the company should make all efforts to bring you back. They can't just refuse. If the job doesn't exist, they have to make efforts to find you a job. If they can't, if they looked and nothing is available, then and only then can they let you go with severance. What this employer did, not legal, there's gonna be repercussions for that.
Okay, Lior, we got to take a short break here. On the other side, we're going to dip our toe into the disability law end of things that you do with the firm. I know you'll fully explain what that means when we come back as we continue more Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Don't go anywhere.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Okay, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer on CP24. John Scholes here, Lior Sanfiru as well. Always reach out to Lior when the show is done. You can have a chat with Lior and the member of his team, or on the other side, on the disability side. How do you do that? Phone number remains the same, 1-855-821-5900. In this case, for disability, ask at disabilityrights.ca. And again, scan that QR code anytime you would like. It's up on your screen. Lior, I did mention disability. I mean, quite often there's simpatico disability employment. They're in lockstep a lot of the time with many of the people you deal with that come in and call the firm. Tell me a little bit about it. Expand on that for me.
So we have two teams in the office. The first team is the team that deals with employment law and helping people resolve their workplace issues. Our second team is the team dealing with those individuals who have been denied disability coverage or have been cut off while they're still sick and unable to work. Now, if you thought on the employment side, we're dealing with people in difficult situations, which we do, it is at a different level when it comes to the disability team. Imagine, we have people contacting us that are sick, that cannot work, that desperately need this insurance coverage that they've been paying for, only for the insurance company to say, you know what, we just don't think you're disabled enough. We're going to find reasons to cut you off, so now you don't have any income. What a terrible, terrible situation to be in. Your heart really goes out to them. The reality is, and the good news is, that when an insurance company does that, they're in the wrong. And once we properly push back, once we deal with it in the right way, they will back off. They'll pay what they're supposed to. The issue will resolve, and it won't take years. So I'm here to send a very clear message to everyone out there. If you've been denied disability coverage, if you've been cut off before you're able to come back to work, if your insurance company is not cooperating, let us know. Let our team deal with it. The insurance company doesn't like our team. That's okay. We don't like them too much either. Our job is to resolve these issues, and we do a very good job of it.
In that regard, Lior, we have a phone call from the radio show that's going to line up pretty perfectly with what we're talking about. So let's have a listen and pick it apart.
My wife's been off work for well over a year with a serious mental health condition. Her doctor says she's not ready to return, but her LTD payments were just cut off. The insurance company says she's not totally disabled anymore, even though nothing's changed. Can they just do that? What are our options?
The old not totally disabled ploy, huh? Okay, there we go.
John, this is exactly what I've been talking about.
Yep.
Mental health issues can be debilitating. You could prevent you from getting out of bed and from functioning. And clearly this is a case where the insurance company knows that she's not able to work. Nothing has changed, but now all of a sudden she's not disabled enough. Happens all the time. Insurance companies try to cut you off, especially if you have one of those, invisible disabilities, because, it's not a broken back, you can't see it on an x-ray. So it's common, and most people back off. They say, well, the insurance company says so, I guess it's a done deal. Well, no. Now you know that the insurance company is doing something wrong. We have a team dealing with that. Once we contact the insurance company and say, you're not going to get away with that, there's a legal process to make you pay, they will back off, they'll do the right thing. I see this all the time with people with very, very serious medical conditions, and for the insurance company to say, oh, you're just not disabled enough, it's ridiculous, and more importantly, John, it's illegal.
Want to get to a quick viewer question here, Lior, as we carry on. That is, do I have to attend an independent medical exam, what we call an IME, if the insurer demands it?
So this is actually very important. An insurance company does have the right to have an IME, a medical exam, to try to get some more information about your condition. And if they set that medical exam, they won't do it in every case, but if they set it, you do have to attend. If you say to the insurance company, I'm not going to attend your IME, then they could use that as a basis to cut you off or to deny your benefits, okay? So yes, you do have to attend that. Now, if the IME says something different than your family doctor says, that doesn't mean the insurance company gets to ignore your doctor, not at all. But you should attend an IME, you should be honest and answer the questions, and if your insurance company, again, tries to come up with a reason why you're not disabled enough, this doctor says you're not, let's talk about it. Let us deal with the insurance company so that they don't get away with anything that they're not supposed to get away with.
Lior, let's take one more short break here and we wrap up the show with another great phone call. That's going to be on the other side, so stand by. We'll get to that. This is Ask a Lawyer on CP24.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Welcome back. Ask a Lawyer, CP24. One more time, how to reach out to Lior before we get into our phone call. Phone number, 1-855-821-5900. Ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. Let's take it home for this week, Lior. Let's get to our last phone call of the show and see where that takes us. Listen up.
My boss, he changed the terms of my contract. I was only able to work 4 days a week because of medical reasons, and that was what it was in our employee contract. Then it said, well, you can't work 5 days a week, and I need you for 5 days, and I'm terminating you. I worked there just a little over 10 months. I'm just wondering what sort of severance I'm entitled to. I'm 53, and it's in the construction industry.
So the reason why she was let go is not really a factor, and her employer is allowed to do that. It's a question of severance. Now, it's easy to think she only worked for 10 months, she's not going to get much severance. It's also easy to think, well, she's in construction, she's not going to get severance. Both of those things are wrong. Even as a 10-month employee, she's owed severance, significant severance, and yes, you get the same severance in the construction industry. So let's see how much severance she's owed. We're going to go once more to the severance calculator at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Let's use that and see how much she gets. She's a 10-month employee, only 53 years of age. She's losing her job. You see right there, she's owed as much as 6 months of severance. Yes, after only 10 months. Yes, in construction. Yet another reason why you should always check out the severance calculator. Again, EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Great stuff, Lior. Thank you so much again for a wonderful week. And thank you as well, by the way, for all the phone calls to the radio show and the emails, which we get to every week. You really provide great content for us for this half hour. I'm going to send you off with some contact information now for Lior and his team. The phone number, one more time, 1-855-821-5900. You always use ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. And the only website you need, it's got all the information you need and access to that severance calculator, which Lior refers to and uses every show. That is PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca. Anything else, cp24.com/askalawyer. And we'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in.